Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. All right, we are so excited to have Matthew Meany with us today. He is the founder of Funky's Hot Sauce Factory right here in Bellingham, and I'm so excited to learn more about him. And also, your hot sauce is really good, Matt. So,
Oh, nice
so I
to
want to talk about that too. But thank you for joining us.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt, how did you get into this business?
Well, so years ago in the early 2000s, my wife and I moved into our first house before we were even married, and I started growing veggies, which is something I always wanted to do. So we had a backyard, and I was able to start experimenting with that. And then a couple years later, let me rewind. That backyard didn't get a ton of sun, but the next house we moved into, which was only a couple years later, we purchased, and we got a lot of sun. It was south facing yard, so I really always wanted to grow peppers. So I got into that, and it took off. And basically, I think we were in that house for the first 5 years. I went from a few pepper plants, and then like maxed out at around 50 or so, plus our other veggies that we like to eat. And in that time span, I started experimenting with making hot sauce. And that was happening concurrently with my job, which was at Russian River Brewing Company, where I was mostly a bartender, but I learned to brew beer there by the owner. And there was a neat little fermentation community that would come in. And I learned a lot from them. And I started making sauerkraut and fermenting some chilies. And I started bringing the sauces in, and employees and customers were using them. And then I kind of dialed a few in. And this is around like 2000, probably 6 or 7 by the time I felt comfortable enough to give them away as gifts. And, for the holidays and whatnot. And it was a hobby for a long time. And we nearly launched the company in California, but my kids were pretty small, so I couldn't wrap my head around how to do all of that at once. But it wasn't until we moved up here a few years later, 2018, we launched, and it was a side project for a little bit while I was doing handyman work. And then we won some awards, and it took off, and I quit my handyman work, and now I'm just doing the food biz. Yeah. Hot sauce. And we've got a barbecue sauce company now as well.
Yeah, and you're underselling a little bit because you have had a lot of national and maybe even world notoriety with your hot sauces, and we'll dig into that. But I want to point out that you are the second guest we've had that the business has started in the backyard, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
One I think is still in the little in the infancy. It's still in the backyard, I believe, but
Yeah.
I'm sure, well, based off of the social media I'm seeing, she's probably gonna go beyond that at some point.
Awesome. That's great.
Anyways, so yeah, why don't you talk about what's that like to say, okay, I'm launching a business. It's one thing to be growing peppers in your backyard and making a sauce that tastes good. It's another thing to tell people about it, have them buy it, all of those pieces.
Yeah. So it's pretty daunting task, honestly. When we were in California, even though I didn't launch the company there, I did take a specialty food class, and I did a lot of research into what was going to be necessary to launch specifically a hot sauce company. So unlike some other packaged food products, hot sauce is considered an acidified food product. So the maker has to acidify it to make it shelf stable. It's a very special type of food license that you need to do that. There's some, tests that you have to take, and a little bit of studying, which is no big deal. I have a science background, and I love food. So I would say I have maybe 4 licenses and or permits to do what I do. So there's a resale license, there's a regular business license. I of course have my LLC, certification or whatever, and then my food processing permit. And then throughout the year, there's additional health permits that you need to do sampling, depending on which county you're doing that in. So anyhow, I had that knowledge, and I had been dabbling with Adobe Illustrator for quite some time, making, labels early on, just like, silly labels in the beginning. As I had to slap something on the bottles back in the day when I was just giving it away to friends and fam. So I got good at Adobe Illustrator through those years, just self-taught and going on YouTube and, asking questions and learning through that route. So by the time I launched in 2018, I wasn't as it wasn't as daunting. It was, and I had the handyman work to back it up, so I wasn't like relying on it for money. But I was like, let's just see where this goes. It's been like an itch in my mind for a long time, and I need to just like, if it's not going to work out, let's just figure it out so I have an answer. Otherwise, I'll always have a curiosity of whether or not I should have pursued it. So I launched with one sauce. And then in about maybe 4 to 6 months in, I had like 3 other recipes dialed in. So I added those to the lineup, and we kind of rolled with 4 sauces for a bit. And then we added 2 maybe a year later. And this was probably, no, I guess this was early. I'm sorry, like harvest season 2021. We added those other 2 sauces because they were entirely made with locally grown chilies. And then I entered one of those sauces into the Screaming Mania Awards at the New York City Hot Sauce Expo the following fall. And that's when we won the Grand World Champion title. And that changed everything. We exploded, and our website like broke. It couldn't handle the traffic.
Oh,
And we got national notoriety. And we started, I had a company up in Canada that wanted to bring our sauces in. They're kind of a hot sauce distribution company up there. Chili Chilies. I'm actually wearing a shirt. Not that the audience can see that, but yeah, so that happened. And it's just been going crazy ever since. The following year, we went to the New York City Hot Sauce Expo because due to that award, we won a free booth at all the hot sauce expos. So we went the following year, and I met all the folks from Heatnist. They're the ones that do hot ones. And that opened the door for us getting on the show. And we just finished our 2nd season on that show just a couple weeks ago.
congrats.
There. Thank you.
So
Like,
which episode was that?
We were on, so there were 13 episodes. We were on all 13 this last season.
Okay.
And I believe there were 14 episodes the first time we were on, and we were on,
Amazing. Wow, what great exposure. That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, I'm going to back up just a little bit to prior to winning that initial award, when you said you launched with the first hot sauce. I love that you started with one product. I think that's really, really smart. When you say launched it, what does that mean? Did you sell it just locally? Did you walk us through a little bit of what that looked like?
Yeah, it was just locally. So I was trying to shop the sauce around to any and every store I could. I walked into Whole Foods and tried to get them to buy, and they still don't have our products, but I'm getting really close right now. Actually, hopefully that happens really soon. They work with our distributor, so I think we're close. Anyhow, but I walked into Whole Foods with it. Then my wife used to work at Elizabeth Station here in Bellingham, so we have a really good relationship with them. So they were our first account. They took it right away, and a couple months later, we had a holiday market that we got into down at Terramar Brewery. And that was the first and only market we did before COVID hit, which was just only a couple more months after that. So we went and did that holiday market and basically sold out of our entire batch of sauce that we had made. We sold, I think I had about 8 cases left when we went to that market, and I sold all 8 cases. And
Wow.
I thought that was amazing. You know, like, looking back, it's just funny, because things are different now. And just having one sauce, is so much easier to sample just one single product compared to what we've got now at our booth. Anyhow, we grew slowly through COVID. We have our online shop, and we started that, right on day one, and we started picking up orders from friends and family across the country. I grew up in New York, so I've got a lot of family back there and friends from high school, and then lived in California for a long time, and then up here. So we had like people all over the country, plus my wife's family that are in Hawaii and California and whatnot. And it just kind of grew real slow, but it did grow during COVID. And since I wasn't reliant on the income, whatever it made was going towards reinvestment or just paying off whatever my initial investment was in it, which wasn't that much money.
Let's talk about that a little bit. We just did an episode 56. It's Fast Money, Fun, Slow Dreams, where Melissa and I kind of talk about, having the fast money being, often it's just a job. It's fast money because it's come in regularly, and using that to fund, this dream of a hot sauce company, and what that balance kind of looked like. And, as you were in that time period.
Yeah. So I would say we put in, we put a lot of it on a credit card, because we didn't have a ton of money, and I was doing self-employed stuff. So it was like a little scary. I'd say it cost maybe somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 to launch and secure my commercial kitchen space, which it's a commissary. So I paid like a small monthly fee. And I was lucky enough to get, initially I had a shelf basically there, and a few months in, I was able to move into like a broom size closet, which was awesome because I wanted to ferment, and I needed a closed conditioned space that I could ferment in. And I was able to put a heater in there in the winter and a little AC in the wall for the summer. But that was just a few $100 a month initially. And then ingredients didn't cost a whole lot. There was like licensing and permitting fees I had to pay. And then as Funky's made money, I just paid down, the initial investment that, that was on the credit card. So not too crazy, for the way we did it,
Are you still in that same commissary? We had Girl and Dog Cookie on episode 30. So you've been on our list since then, when she mentioned you were sharing.
Oh, she told me about that. Yeah. So it's funny because in 2023, we had, we were about to go on Hot Ones. And we bought a local barbecue sauce company, which we'll talk more about. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to do that in the commissary that we were in, because it was limited space. They wanted to accommodate us to some extent, but it was going to be uncomfortable as far as like where to store inventory, because that was ever increasing, and we had a lot of it at our house in our garage, and that was getting a little crazy. And there was also more equipment that I needed to purchase. And since we had taken over that barbecue sauce company, it came with a bunch of equipment. And the question was like, where are we going to put that? The barbecue sauce company had a kitchen up in Ferndale, which wasn't an ideal situation. And for a couple of reasons, one of them being that it was in Ferndale and I wanted to stay local. I didn't want to have to get on the freeway, whatever, to get to work. I wanted to be relatively available for my kids, because Rachel went and took a different job, working full-time for Trader Joe's, and had more of a rigid schedule. And I was the one with the flexible schedule, and like could do things for the children, like get them to their before and after school activities and whatnot. Anyhow, so we found a new kitchen space that would essentially be our own, and it came with Girl and Dog cookies. So we met Meredith then when we moved in, and she's still like our tenant. And then I brought in 2 other makers to help offset the rent, and we just keep it just the four of us. I don't want it to be run as a commissary. We did a little bit of construction work in here to make sure we each had our own station, and that way nobody's ever stepping on anyone's toes. And yeah, it's a nice situation. So yeah, we're over in the Haskell Business Park now, and Meredith's here, and she's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and her cookies are delicious.
Yeah, they are. They're so.
So, I want to, I guess we can decide which way we want to go with this, because I want to hear more about, winning the awards, being on Hot Ones. What's it look like when you go from that, basically part-time hot sauce maker to saying, oh
Yeah.
man, this thing's real. And then I
Yeah.
also want to dig into the acquiring the barbecue sauce and company
Yeah.
and where you're at now. So why don't we keep on the hot sauce trajectory, and then we can loop back to the barbecue.
Okay. Yeah. So coming out of COVID, we finally got into the Bellingham Farmers Market. The Bellingham Farmers Market came back up, because it had to be canceled for about a year or so during COVID. So we had, I think it's hard to remember, but I think I applied once before COVID, like late in the season, and didn't get in. We applied again at the tail end of COVID when they were still asking people to mask up. But events went back on. And then it was the time after that. Anyhow, like, it must have been 2022. Yeah. And we got in for the 2022 season. So I was doing those markets. I got into the Anacortes Farmers Market. We basically started making more money and generating more cash flow because I added all these like in-person markets. And then the Barkley market started. So I had a market every Thursday, every Saturday, sometimes on a Sunday. And I was still like not terribly busy during the week. Like production wasn't too crazy. I wasn't dealing with a whole lot of admin stuff yet. Not even close to what I deal with now. It's just, there's so many emails now, it's just nuts. Anyhow, so that led up to the fall where we won the award, so the fall of 2022. And once we won the award and the website kind of like broke, we blew through, in that process, we blew through most of our inventory, which, mind you, back then we were making 20-gallon batches of sauce, which in that pot, I should say it was like 16 gallons per batch because I left a few inches at the top of the pot because you don't want to boil over. And that equates to about 32 cases of sauce, which was reasonable inventory for, when we had like 6 sauces. It was like I could fit it all on a rack in the commissary that we were in. No big deal. Occasionally with a larger batch, like we would use there was a bigger kettle in that commissary kitchen, a 40-gallon kettle. So sometimes we'd do as much as 70 cases, and that was considered, huge for us then. After the award happened, we had to get into the kitchen. We were making sauce. Like, we had to bang out a whole bunch of sauces because we had the holidays right around the corner, and we just like blew through all of our inventory. We also had to move our website over to a host that could handle it better. So we moved over to Shopify from GoDaddy. And GoDaddy is great for hosting, for like giving you your domain, but like for hosting a website that has sales, it just didn't work anymore. Anyway, so we moved to Shopify. And I just worked as much as I could for a little while. I was still doing handyman stuff, and things were hectic, it was a little crazy, running all over the place.
Was it just you, Matt, or did you have people like part-timers helping at the time?
Just me. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, just me. I was packing all the orders. And actually when we got that influx of orders after we won the Grand World Champion title, see that article, like we did a press release, and when the press release dropped, it was picked up by like online media in New York. And so I had my cousins like calling or texting me, and they were like, "We just saw you on the news," and they're in Staten Island. I was like, "What are you talking about? Like, how did that happen?" And I don't know if it's like your phones are always listening to you, and if they were talking about hot sauce anywhere near their phone, it knew to show them this thing about Funkies. Maybe they had said Funkies, and it like lined the two things up together, and they're like, "Here's this news about Funkies." So, um, right when all those orders came in, we had it was hundreds and hundreds of orders, and then I could refresh my phone. I could just like swipe down, and there was like, oh my God, there's 10 more orders. Swipe down again, 10 more orders. I'm like, this is bonkers. So Rachel did step in then, and we just like put our heads down and packed everything up. Um, she kind of took a little bit of a liking to it and was like, you know what, during the holidays, me and the kids will pack the orders. And she has since, even with her full-time job over at Trader Joe's, and she's now a manager over there, she's got a lot of work to do, a lot of hours. She still kind of packs our order. She does the order. She's like in charge of online ordering and shipping and whatnot.
Wow.
So with the kids kind of like helping under her. So they'll go in there and they'll prep a bunch of stuff or get stuff pre-packed, and she'll put the final touches on it. Or, our oldest kid can do the whole process at this point. Yeah. And prior to that, let me see, my dad started coming in and helping me in the kitchen when we would make sauce. Yeah, so we would fill bottles and he would cap them. And I'd do the bottle filling. And yeah,
This is a true family business.
pretty
You
wild.
have everybody involved. It's great.
Well,
Yeah.
and I love the fact that you went, you approach this with the idea of, I'm just going to make it work, right? You're still doing the other job. Your wife's working, your kids are helping out, and it's kind of one step at a time. You keep, finding a way to kind of get to the next level. And, you know, whatever the situation is, you say, okay, well, this is the situation we're in. We're going to rise to the occasion. And that is allows you to kind of keep leveling up. So what does it look like when you go from, are you still doing the markets? Or, what are your online sales percentage? And you had that giant spike. Are you dealing with kind of a roller coaster of sales when you're on when you're on Hot Ones or get some of the publicity? Or is your just constant level higher now?
It fluctuates. So it definitely depends on the time of year. So middle of summer is crazy, mostly because we have, on top of our farmers markets, I sign up for a bunch of festivals. So I've got like 2-day festivals that I do. And at this point now I have somebody helping with our markets. So most of the year it's just me. But when I have two things going on, I've got somebody else who hang in Bellingham and do the Bellingham Farmers Market, and I'll go do the special event wherever it is. Some companies similar to ours go even further with that, and they'll take on like 3-4 events every weekend. And that just kind of scares me, to be honest. Because I would need to hire more people that would do that, and then I would have no work for them for a good chunk of the year. It would just be kind of, I don't know, a strange situation. Ideally for us, the person who helps me with markets can also help us in the kitchen, on production days, and just dealing with processing produce and stuff when it comes in. So yeah, so during the middle of summer, we're very busy. And then the holiday season's crazy. Like, and leading into the holiday season is actually harvest. So not a sales thing, but and actually kind of a slow time of the year is October, which is kind of good for us because that's when the bulk of the harvest happens. So we process a ton of peppers during that time, and I try to get stuff fermenting and or frozen, and just so it's preserved, and then it's set for a good portion of the year.
So are you buying your peppers in bulk from somewhere, or what? You say the harvest time is the busy, so you're
Yeah,
sourcing those peppers and buying in bulk.
yeah, I buy a lot of our peppers. Our specialty peppers are largely just purchased locally. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, from maybe 5 different local farms. And then we do we do purchase through a produce supplier also for like, the rest of the year for like, there's maybe 6 or 7 kind of chilies we can get through them, the rest of the year. But the
So
specialty ones like the Carolina Reapers, the Ghosts, the Scorpions, all the oddball ones that now that I've got worked out with one of my primary growers, he grows all kinds of weird chilies for me. I can't get those anywhere else. Which is fun. I love that.
yeah, that's really cool. What a unique, just what a unique business that you are sourcing and, utilizing these very specific peppers. There's such a level of creativity to what you're doing. How do
Yeah.
you,
It's so much fun.
how do you manage the money that if sales are doing the roller coaster thing, then obviously income is, and then how do you maintain quality when it's like, it's almost like, hurry up, get it all done, and then you've got to wait a little bit, and then, how does that work?
Um, Quality wise, what do you mean? Like, you don't mean in the product, do you?
Yeah, like in the product itself, right? Like
Yeah.
because obviously you've done a very good job of keeping your quality up. It can
Yeah.
be very easy to make mistakes when
Oh,
and
it
you're
can.
slammed.
Sure, sure. It's true. I mean, I have a pretty good system with my recipes, and I use a lot of checklists, to be honest. Every time we make a sauce, I have all of my recipes formatted, and I print out a sheet for that. I'll print out the for whatever sauce it is, I'll print the sheet out, and it's got like all the ingredients listed with check boxes, and it's a sheet that I have to keep records of every single, batch of sauce I make because we're acidified and whatnot. So if the FDA were to ever come in here and they wanted to see like all my records, I have everything documented, and it's got like what the pH was, the batch size, how many bottles that was, a checklist of how many minutes you have to invert the bottle so it creates the not only the seal, but it's for sanitary purposes. So you invert them for 2 minutes, and there's like a little thing I check off next to that box, and also every single one of the ingredients, of course. So once I started doing it that way, which was some years ago, it's difficult to make a mistake. Um, the only mistakes I make nowadays is I forget to order things in time, like, and it doesn't happen regularly by any means, but some items have longer lead times, and I'll go over the recipe a couple days before we're scheduled to make the sauce, and it'll be like, oh my God, I never got the carrot juice or like, whatever it is. And it's happened a couple times. In most of the cases, I've been able to like scramble around town and make it happen. But a couple times I had to reschedule. I'm like, oh, we're not making that this week. I forgot to order this ingredient.
That seems like a lot of stuff to keep track of.
A lot of stuff to keep track of for sure.
A lot of moving
Top of-
parts.
Yeah, on top of all of the other things.
So then what led you, because you already have this thriving, growing business, what led you then to acquire the barbecue business?
Yeah, so we've always had it as our intention to expand beyond hot sauce. We wanted to diversify. We have plans to make a lot more condiments as we grow, and the opportunity came up with Trilby's barbecue sauce. So I had heard of Trilby's. I knew it was an old brand from Pacific Northwest, and I got to know the woman who was running the company before us. I met her at other festivals and markets around here and between here and Seattle, and she, I knew that she wanted to get out of the food biz, and so we started chatting, and I knew she had some pieces of equipment that it would make our production easier if I was able to use those pieces of equipment. So I was like, if we buy Trilby's, like we also get all this equipment out of the deal. And then, I thought a little bit about whether or not we wanted to make Trilby's ourselves or have a co-packer make it. So what we ended up doing was we purchased Trilby's, and I had some leads on some co-packers at this point from other business acquaintances and networking that I had done in the previous, 18 months. And so we're like, well, if we buy Trilby's, then we have a barbecue sauce line plus a whole line of seasonings. And Trilby's also has some dip mixes and some other things that we haven't relaunched yet. But we initially just got in there. We decided that we wanted to kind of give Trilby's a fresh new look. It looked like the early 90s on the label. And we just wanted to give it a little modern edge and get millennials buying it, because I don't think any young people were buying Trilby's or even knew what it was. Plus, we wanted to remove the corn syrup that was in the recipe. My family and I, we don't eat corn syrup at my house, and it's not in any of my hot sauces. It's all real food in there anyway. So it was always our intention to make that one adjustment, but the recipe is intact. And honestly, when Trilby's was first launched, by Trilby is the woman's name who started it back in the 70s. She was a local caterer, well, not local to Bellingham, but local down in Silverdale. And she used ketchup for the base. And back then, ketchup didn't even have corn syrup in it. So we just, brought it back to the way it used to be made, and there was actual real sugar in it. Anyhow, yeah. So that took some doing. So in the middle of like updating the look and removing the corn syrup and going back and forth with the co-packer, we got on Hot Ones, and we were moving into our new kitchen. And it was one of the craziest times in my life.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it was nuts. That was really, really crazy. Yeah. And we were also that was the year that we were like on tour doing all the events all over the country, all hot sauce events all over the country, because we had won the Grand World Champion title just prior to that. And that was part of our prize, was a free booth at all those events. So we were in Chicago, New York City. We went to Cincinnati and did an event. And then, it was pretty wild.
Well, you were like the literal definition of strike while the iron is hot then.
Oh,
There's a lot of stuff going.
What have I done? Why did we sign up for this? Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you also said you are wanting to expand. The idea was always to expand beyond hot sauce. So can you give us a preview of any other goals that you might have of what you want to expand into?
Yeah, we want to make salad dressings. I have, so my whole family's Italian. I grew up in a cooking family. I learned to cook when I was young, and I was never afraid of experimenting. Like, just mix stuff up, just see what happens. Like, the worst it is it could not be good, and maybe you have to add more of this or more of that to fix it. And so I was never afraid. And there was a couple of old family recipes too. So like, I've got a couple salad dressings I like to make, and I think they're pretty good. And they're usually a hit when people come over. My garlic vinaigrette is a favorite. So I'd love to get that in a bottle. I love to make pesto, pasta sauce. Contemplating releasing that kind of stuff as well. Yeah. And
Amazing.
who knows what else? I
And
mean,
where are you at with the barbecue sauce company now? How's that playing with everything?
so it's continuing to grow for sure. It's all taken more work and more time than I had hoped. But Trilby's is doing pretty good. We just got into 200 Safeway stores. Yeah. So a little while ago, I started.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So we started to consider that maybe we would sell Trilby's to get it off my plate, just because it's a lot of work. And one of the interesting things about owning Trilby's is that it's not, we own two brands. It's Funky's and Trilby's. So I have two sets of social media accounts. They're not totally integrated. Like, any new products that we launch would probably be under the Funky's name. It would be one single brand. I think from a sales standpoint, potentially easier to sell, but that's only because of personnel issues. Like I'm the only full-time employee. I don't have anybody else doing admin stuff or sales or anything like that. And at this point, I'm not really prepared or ready to hire somebody to do those things. So it's like, well, maybe we sell Trilby's, and then, we'll probably eventually launch a couple hot barbecue sauces under Funky's name anyway, but it would be easier to manage, is my thought, than having two completely different brands. Um, yeah, and one of the things is, Funky's is largely organic. We're not 100% organic, but Trilby's is not an organic company. And I'm not going to turn it organic because it would raise the price significantly per bottle. And I don't want to lose its existing customer base or, make it something it's not already. However, if we were to make a barbecue sauce under Funky's name, it would quite possibly be 100% organic. I might even go as far as to, certify it. But it would be an easier task than, the way things are right now. So the thought in selling it would be to, I'd sell it and then pay off the loan I got to buy it, and hopefully pay off some other stuff as well. And basically get some things off my plate. However, it is still moving forward. We just got into Safeway, which was a huge goal for us. And the more things that happen with it, the more growth we have, the more value gets added to the company. So we're just going to keep rolling with it and keep pushing, in that regard. And my wife and I were chatting, like maybe having an investor is like, maybe they're actively involved, or maybe they're like financially, and they take some of the financial burden away. And then I'm not really sure. I've never gone down that road before, like on that large of an investment type of thing, or what that looks like, or if it's a partnership or any of that kind of stuff. If we were to do that, we would probably start a new LLC and have that LLC buy Trilby's, and then maybe run the new LLC with a partner type of thing, and just have Trilby's under that partnership. I'm not really sure. There's a lot of ideas going around, and like what would feel comfortable.
A lot of options, which is
Yeah.
good to have options.
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot of different business pieces here, and it seems like it's multiplying. We talk a lot about different incomes. It seems like one of the nice things with Trilby's is it does diversify your income, that you're not just relying on the Funkies. And then seems like you've diversified even within Funkies, right? You've got your kind of national selling that happens, and then you have your local markets, or not even local markets, but just your markets you get used to yours, selling in person, in addition to these national sales and getting it on shelves. And I can see that you have just like a lot of different sales funnels of different ways that you can move one or both of the products.
Yeah. I think that's hugely important. Some years ago, I got to go on a WSDA sponsored trade mission to Montreal and Toronto. And even though we didn't have distribution up there, I took the opportunity to do that. There was little investment from us, mostly just plane ticket, but the hotels were taken care of, and a lot of the food was taken care of when we got over there. And I met some other people that were further along in the CPG, in this food business. Some actual produce suppliers and some consumer packaged goods. And I learned quite a bit on that trade mission, and just chatting with people who'd been in the business for 20 years. And I don't know if I learned this particular thing there, but it was maybe reinforced that having multiple sales channels is, it's key to success. I know other small businesses in the hot sauce world that rely on one single sales channel. They only sell on their website. They don't like doing markets. They don't like wholesale because they believe it cuts into their sales. And I don't have the same, I don't agree with that at all. Wholesale is completely different. Wholesale allows us to get into stores in New York, Chicago. We're in 4 stores in Canada. I have 2 accounts in England. I have one in Australia. We're all over the US. And people that are going to walk into a store and buy maybe say 6 or 8 of our products are available for wide distribution like that, but the other 10, because we make 22 hot sauces at this point, a lot of the other ones are specialty, small batch things. You're only going to get those on our website, or if you see me at the farmer's market. So people might get turned on to our products because they saw them in a store in Tennessee, and they look us up and they're like, oh my God, these guys have like 10 other things I can't buy at the store. And then they'll start buying stuff from us online. So I think that's one reason multiple sales channels like work. And then the other one is just not having all your eggs in one basket, you know? So when January hits, all the markets are over. All the in-person markets, they come to a halt. January, February, March, there's not much going on, but we still have wholesale accounts buying, you know? And January, we actually bring a significant amount of money in January because all of our wholesale accounts are restocking. So January is not really a slow cash flow month for us. It's pretty good. February, it starts to wind down. March, I would say, is the slowest month of all of them before things ramp up. And there are a few markets that start to pick up, some specialty ones, but they're not exactly super busy. And then our website, you know, is a whole different ballgame. So we sell online, and depending on what online marketing tools you're using and SEO, whatnot, like we're constantly trying to sharpen that and make it better. So it's like a decent chunk of income coming in off our website. And that stays steady for the most part all year. One thing, some things that can affect that are winning awards and getting on hot ones. Like we do see influx for those things. Like this Friday, we get the sauce back that was on hot ones just these last few months. So they get exclusive rights to it while it's on the show. But we're finally, the show's over as of 2 weeks ago. So we had an agreement that we get it back May. And so May 1st is Friday. So our website could see an influx this weekend. And I think it will. That's what happened last time too. And we're all ready for that. I got a pallet worth of Nirvana sitting in the back room there. Barbecue sauce, on the other hand, is funny because there's a barbecue season. There's no hot sauce season. You know, people buy hot sauce all year, and barbecue sauce really does see an influx in the springtime through the summer. And then the holidays are okay, but barbecue sauce goes kind of dead for a while in the other parts of the year. It's an interesting thing. Yeah. Different animal.
That makes a lot of sense, and I never thought about that. This is so informative. Matt,
No, it's so wild. Yeah.
learning so much about the consumer packaged goods food industry.
Yeah.
This was awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, for joining us and
Oh, yeah.
telling us all about your journey. I'm so excited to come and get more of your hot sauce. I've definitely gotten it from your market before.
Oh, cool.
And we're also wishing you so much luck with all of these new products too. I can't wait. I'm in line for salad dressing, ready for the
Yeah,
salad
yeah.
dressing.
Yeah, I can't wait to launch some of that stuff. It'll be fun.
It's very exciting. And I love that how you diversify your entire business as well. I think that's really, really smart. So if you love this episode, please rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. We're going to link
Okay.
Matt's hot sauce and barbecue sauce in our show notes. So please go and support him and purchase some. And it is delicious. You won't be sorry. And with that said, we'll see you next time on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.